Oh yes, I did see someone, or I think it was your tweet, or maybe your brother, saying you'd interviewed somebody who's so far down the rabbit hole that it was another level.
He's got the advantage that he's dying of cancer, so he doesn't have to
Yeah, this is it.
pull his punches or pretend
Yes,
that we're all in unicorn land,
right. Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
good.
I will tell. I can't. I'm not going to watch it because I just don't think it will be
Oh no
helpful
no
to
no
my
no!
mental
Oh,
health.
it's not like that. No, it's not.
Right.
You
Well,
will.
maybe I will.
It,
Okay, maybe I will.
no, don't. What there's one I did with Francis Hunt,
Okay.
which you definitely shouldn't watch because that's
Yeah.
completely black-pilled. Although it gives you good advice on how to survive the apocalypse. But the Jonathan Marsley one you'll like because it's got a lot of spiritual stuff in it, and
All right.
it's very interesting. Oh no, it's a beautiful thing. It is the best
Yes.
podcast I've ever done,
All right. Well,
and
okay,
and
fine,
everyone
fine.
knows it. Yeah, that's
I
good.
didn't take
So
kindly to that tweet either, but I'll let it go.
what's that?
That
No,
it was the
yeah,
best
but
podcast
as I
you've
say,
ever
I
listened
love all my
to.
children, but
Yeah.
you are not dying of cancer, and you are not
No.
Jonathan Marsley. So you know, um, and that's it. So I wanted to talk to you first
Yes.
about the extraordinary experience I had at the weekend,
Oh.
where I went on the Freedom March through London.
Okay.
Did I mean, were
No.
you were you even aware that it had
No,
happened?
no, I was aware it happened. Yes, yeah. No, I heard it was well attended. I mean, I did have to read extra on, alternative websites about it. No, I heard it was well attended.
Yes.
Yes, I realize I probably should have been on it. I'm not,
No, no,
I
I
wouldn't risk
wasn't.
it
No,
now.
I wasn't
Yeah.
guilt tripping you.
Yes, yes, no,
I
I
think
get that.
lots of people I know were there was a sort of when we when we gathered beforehand in Hyde
Yes.
Park, there was a palpable air of fear, um, in that it felt like being in occupied Europe. No,
Right.
it really did. The police were all around you and they were monitoring you, and so here you were in a park on a I don't think it was a
Yeah, it was
sunny
quite
day,
a
but it
nice
wasn't
day.
it,
Yeah, and I think it
it,
was
it
good
wasn't it
Saturday.
wasn't it wasn't a bad day. So people were out there taking the air, but you were very conscious that the police were just waiting for a chance to drag you off and arrest
Mm.
you or whatever. And occasionally they'd come over to you and ask these intrusive questions like, "What are you doing here?" And I think it sort of underlined the surreal nature of our experiences in the last 12 months. Can you imagine, just over 12 months ago, going to the
No.
park and being questioned by police about like
No, I know.
it,
I know.
it's extraordinary. Anyway, so we had this big march. I mean, I don't know how many people attended. Some people say it was in excess of 50,000. There were lots of people there,
Yes.
and we at a given signal, smoke signals. It was all quite exciting. We
Right.
marched we marched up Park Lane
Mm.
through the block traffic, which we'd brought to a standstill, and we got
Mm.
amazing amounts of solidarity from the drivers.
Yes.
If I'd been in traffic and I'd been trying to get through and I hadn't known the cause, I think I would have resented the marchers.
Sure.
But these people, particularly the bus drivers, they were all beeping their horns, giving us high fives through their windows and
Okay,
stuff.
that's
It was
good.
really it was
Yes.
really
No,
touching.
I did
Yeah.
read that. All right. Yeah. As
So
I
we
said, on
so we
alternative ones.
marched down Oxford Street, and and
Mm.
and again it was nerve-wracking because you didn't know whether the police were gonna close in on either side and kettle you in, which is what they do. They kettle you and they keep you in
Yes.
an enclosed space, and they won't let you get out to go for a pee. So you have to either pee yourself or pee in the bottle or whatever, and you don't get any water, and it's a punishment. It's designed to sort of
Sure.
terrorize you. They didn't do that on this occasion. Maybe because the crowd was too large, or maybe because
Well, they've been getting some bad media, right? So.
well, there's that. But I don't think that's going to put them off because I think where we're going, I think the state wants more than anything to crush dissent from those of us who don't believe that lockdowns are good and who don't buy the narrative. They don't care about Black Lives Matter. They really don't. I mean, that pantomime in Bristol yesterday, on Sunday,
yes.
was Antifa. It was the Black Bloc. It was the radical left. And I saw some very disturbing footage of one of the rioters, alleged rioters, sneaking off and having friendly conversations with the police, and then going back to, in other words, he was either an agent provocateur or he was MI5 or whatever. But there was something very suspect about this supposed spontaneous kill the bill event in Bristol. And I think its ultimate purpose was to discredit protests like the one on Saturday, to give the government the excuse to go in hard, pretending that, look, the country's in anarchy. And I think a lot of people who've been brainwashed by the Daily Mail and the BBC and so on actually believe this. They believe that people protesting for freedom are a menace and are in the same group as the Black Bloc, hard left, Antifa, and so on, and that they think that the government's new draconian bill on where you can get a 10,000 fine and 10 years in prison for just merely attending a protest is proportionate. This is where we're going. We're being manipulated horribly.
Well, I think a lot of people right now just want order and conformism. So all the Tories in the shires, etc., who don't have to worry about an income overall, although they might be surprised when they
the middle class is fine.
Yeah, their pension pot. Yeah, they want it all shut down, I would imagine. So yes, but I mean, it's good that it's well attended. I do think if they try and carry on for much longer, you will get more and more people going. It's difficult to see where it's going. Did you light your candle last night? Did you reflect? Did you reflect on the year?
If I'd had a candle.
Yes.
The only use for a candle involves Boris Johnson on all fours, naked. That's the only place I'd shove a candle. It's or Matt Hancock, obviously. I mean, if Boris wasn't available. But before we go on to that, I just wanted to tell you the most disturbing thing about the march.
Go on.
It did not go. It went virtually unreported in the mainstream media. It was astonishing.
But that's what they do. It's so manufactured.
Yeah, we marched through central London, a huge crowd, peaceful crowd.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the kind of ethnic mix was a lot more varied than you'd find on a Black Lives Matter rally,
white
full
people,
of sort of uptight middle class white people.
Yeah,
and the same with Extinction Rebellion, which is about as white can be.
Yes.
These were the kind of people that the government professes to care about.
Yes.
So racial minorities, the working classes, and the government did not give a shit about them. The government and the media, in cahoots with the government, because after all the government is paying them, the media just gaslit the nation into believing that this thing had never happened.
Yes.
It was just
I agree.
airbrushed it out.
Nothing to see here. Yeah, nothing to see here. No, nothing happened. No, everybody's happy. Everybody supports what's going on. I know, it's crazy.
London wasn't brought to a standstill by this enormous rally, expression of public disquiet at government policy. No, just ignore it.
No, the mainstream media, as we know, I mean, it is frightening. I mean, it's just, I think Toby Young did something on it yesterday, didn't he? Saying how sort of disillusioned he was by people and institutions he previously had faith in. It was on that Lockdown Skeptics. But yeah, I mean, they are, they're completely in cahoots. But again, on the front of my Times today are three very serious looking women. I think the mother and her two girls lighting a candle. I didn't see a single candle lit on our road, and they were out banging for the nurses like this time last year. So this idea,
weren't.
No, nobody. So
what was supposed to happen yesterday? I mean, I wasn't really paying attention.
We're all lighting candles as
for who?
For I think the people who died from COVID, which not all 120,000 of them died. For the people like the 90-year-olds that died of a really serious flu. Yeah, it's millions. They lit millions of candles in the form of a nationwide beacon of remembrance. I didn't
I
see
just
any.
don't believe it. I
No, I
do
know.
not believe
It's
this
just
one
such
second.
lies. The whole thing is lies. I mean, worryingly, I mean, look, I only got the end of Priti Patel's interview today, and then I turned it straight off because her final sentence was, as usual, what the government have been saying for the whole years, we'll do, because they'd asked them the whole, should I book a foreign holiday thing? And her answer, of course, is, we will do whatever it takes as a government to protect our citizens. And it's like, no, so there's no limiting principle on their power. They're running around basically saying we'll do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, no matter what the damage. Aren't we great? These guys are so totalitarian. Boris is so populist in a very bad way. I mean, I do think they do have a good strain of support out there from
They
various groups.
do. Those are the most disappointing people. The people who vote, as long as it's got Conservative on the tin, they'll vote for it. I mean, somebody tweeted out the other day, do we think that Boris Johnson is the greatest prime minister ever? And he wasn't even saying it ironically.
No, I know. Well, look, I also think now, before I turn my ire, I also do think, I'm afraid, and they've done the polling on this, whether you believe the polling or not, is supposedly a lot of the red wall constituents support him. Although I sense that they break the lockdown themselves, but tell the pollsters that, yes, the lockdown is the greatest thing to ever happen, like places up in that previously have voted Labour have now suddenly switched to an authoritarian Boris Johnson. Well, that makes sense, right? Because they wanted to be taken care of under Labour by a massive expansion of the welfare state. And now Boris has come in to take care of them in terms of furlough payments and to protect them from the virus. So it's not that, again, I would believe that you have this very weird alliance between very comfortable, as I said, Tory people living in the Shires, boomers living in the Shires, and a sort of kind of working class, previously Labour voting, Brexit voting people up north, which again is not necessarily something that you would necessarily have predicted. But I'm sure there's all sorts of weird alliances. It's the people who want to be taken care of by government, who believe that they are entitled to use governmental power to shut down the lives of other people to protect them from a virus. Since when have people?
Yeah, the people who voted for the NSDAP in 1933, or maybe 35, 36.
This is new in terms of things I expect from my government. It used to be decent health system, decent education system, maybe some public transport. Now it includes protect me from a virus. This is the first generation that feel that they're entitled to use governmental power to, disproportionately receive protection from an actual virus. It's incredible. I've never seen it before. I mean, what can you say?
You've certainly explained the public's complicity in this, or the public's
I don't think they should be let off the hook.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. But where are you on the how have you gone down the rabbit hole yet? Are you
in terms of the Great Reset, or how much?
Well, and worse.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. Yesterday, again in the Times, there was a massive supplement. They have ththese weird paid-for supplements, and essentially, it was a big push on the Great Reset. All of it. You would say I was private. Yes. It was all like, it had a big spread. I could nearly get it for you. It had a big spread on the amount of people who will need to be upskilled, from their current job, who have been displaced. I think it was the word displaced from their current job has been displaced, as in it's been eradicated because of the lockdown, and are now going to have to upskill, and it's of course all tech, into these new wonderful techie skills. Lots of education, how all the education should be delivered through screens. Complete all great reset stuff.
That is absolutely great reset stuff. That is terrifying. they're not even hiding it anymore.
No, I know, I
It's
know.
it's and it's like even now, even when they're not hiding it, people are still saying, "Oh yeah, but it's a conspiracy theory." Why would they do this? They say. Well,
Yes, I
you
know.
don't need to know why.
Why?
You don't need to know what their
Yeah,
motivation is. You just look at the script.
yeah,
Look at what they're doing. I find that argument the most frustrating because
yes,
it's like so Hitler rolls his tanks
yes,
into Russia and people go, well, he'd never do that,
yeah.
because
Why would he?
it
Yeah,
would
I
be
know.
mad, it'd be insane to take on the Soviet Union. No,
Mm,
look, he is actually driving the tanks into Russia now. Yeah, but what would his
I
motivation
know,
be? I mean, this
I
is
know.
people are weird.
Yeah.
um
Well, I think people are naive and they don't like to think about the very dark side of human nature, which as we've said before, I basically assume as a given. So, I mean, this is they want to usher in a new age of technocrats, a new age of planning. You can call it what you want, a sort of an updated version of communism or whatever, where you have the elite who like to control people. And they, of course, they'll say it's for their own good. They always say it's for your own good. As I said,
do you,
they never say I'm doing it to punish you. I want to create year zero, said Mao, it'll be for our own good. So there are these public health nutbags. If I hear another doctor or expert on my radio telling me what to do, I'm actually going to lose it. And these, because lots of people have had so much faith in these people. These are the good guys, right? No, they're loving their newfound media fame. They want to do it for your own good. Maybe we can get them to eat certain things and exercise a certain day, and there's just the power is endless, right? There's no amount of power you can exercise because it's all for your own good. It's for your own good.
why do people still listen to this crap? I mean,
I don't know.
I won't have the BBC in my
No,
car
I know,
now
I don't.
at all.
Yeah,
I listen to podcasts, but
yeah.
why do you even listen to talk radio, given that they've basically sold the past?
Well, talk radio
you'll get
aren't that
little
bad. I think
bits
you
of
mean
kind of.
LBC. I think you mean LBC.
No,
Yeah.
well, no. I think talk radio is pretty much given up as well. They're giving up the fight. You'll get little bits
Mm,
of sort of licensed dissent, and then they're
yeah.
very much within the Overton window.
Right.
They've been given a bollocking from upstairs. Whatever the instincts of the individual broadcasters, they
Yes.
just they're not on it anymore. They're not covering it. They'll talk about stuff like free speech or whatever, but they're not going to really
Mm.
engage with what's really going on, and that's sad. But tell me about your experiences with Nick
All right.
Ferrari. I mean, it seemed that you were on in full Laura rant, and it was a good one, and then he
Don't
just
like the
cut you
word
off.
rant, but no. Well, what happened? So you get the call the night before, and I haven't had any calls for a year, which I find suspicious, if I may say so myself. And it's the researcher. Oh, this crime bill is no. They want to extend the lockdown powers for another 6 months to October, right? Even though they say everything will be lifted in June, for some reason they want the lockdown powers extended until October. So, will you come on to oppose it? I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. And it was a very short researcher call, I remember thinking. So anyway, it's kind of 8 o'clock the next morning, and I mean, Nick is supposedly going in hard on the Tories, like as in, it shouldn't be 6 months, and they're getting the opposition. Or he brings in again another public health nut beforehand. Oh, it's still dangerous, this COVID out there. It's still dangerous, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, this is winding me up even more. So anyway, I mean, he sets you up with the quick intro question, and I mean, of course, I oppose a 6 month extension, but I basically
Yeah.
said that they were morally degenerate, that the lockdown was evil, disproportionate, immoral, that this generation have completely sacrificed the next generation. Suicides are up. So I gave what I will call the very moral, you're selfish, you're evil. And then Nick is like, but a lot of our listeners would say, with 120,000 deaths, it was necessary. And I'm like, well, it has to be proportionate. And Sweden haven't locked down, and blah blah. And I think he did give me a decent amount of time, in fairness, but it was sort of, I felt a bit cut off at the end, and I just
You
don't think
were.
he. Yeah, I just don't think he expected this is evil, this is moral, this is completely immoral language. What he wanted me to say is, yeah, well, 6 months, like it is a little bit much now, and maybe until June, and what can you do?
Yeah.
We had the lockdown, and it was necessary at the time. Okay, thanks, bye, Nick. And yeah, he just didn't see it coming. So it was one of those calls where when you're ended and you think that researcher's in trouble now, they're going to go back to him and go, how much did you she didn't say anything that we wanted her to say, right? So I can tell that that's probably what happened. But oddly, talk radio got on to me later on that day. It was like, do you want to do something for 1:20 I'm like, fine. It was on the protest. But Ian Collins actually turned it into an anti-lockdown speech, and I definitely felt he gave me a lot more time. So
That's interesting. But
yes, that was fine.
I do think
Yeah.
that they are under pressure from the
Yes.
whatever. I mean, I'm sure that individually they're,
Mm.
Simon, what's his face? Yeah,
No.
whatever.
Yeah, Nick
No,
Ferrari
is
or
it?
Ian. Yeah,
I was
Nick
about I
Ferrari.
was about to say Simon Dolan, but of course not Simon Dolan.
No.
I know that various of the talk radio presenters
Yes.
can be pretty good,
Yeah.
but they've had their wings clipped. There's no question.
Okay. Yeah, I do think
Um,
Julia Hartley Brewer is still going strong. I mean, she's probably the most. She's. I know you don't like. I know you don't like it over the vaccine
she's
thing,
gonna
but
get
other than that,
a white dotted line painted down her back if she's not careful.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I know she's gone hard
she's
though.
so kind of straddling the middle of the road. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, on the one hand she's anti-lockdown, and on the other hand she's had the vaccine because she wants to go on holiday. It's not a very principled position, is it? When all your freedoms are being taken
You
away,
know,
and they're now
it's
talking
honest though. It's at
about.
least it is honest. Yeah, they're not getting their holidays anyway, vaccine passport or not.
I don't mind the brazen honesty of I love my
Yes,
infinity pools and I want them to
I
go on
know.
forever. I get that. I get that. But what I don't get is like, hang on a second, you are supposed to be one of the voices of
Yes.
skepticism and freedom, and really getting a jab, getting experimental mRNA into your veins is, which the government is trying to make
Mm,
compulsory and give to children, is not really the
yes.
best way of
But
fighting the good fight, is it?
in her defense, and then we'll move on, is that she is actually what I would say. She's gotten the vaccine and she's completely against any vaccine passport system, which I think is actually quite principled, right? She could say, I've got the vaccine, everybody else needs to get the vaccine. This is our only way out.
That would make
Yes.
her a fascist, though.
Yeah, well, okay, sure,
That
I
would make
know.
her fascist.
What can you do?
You know,
Throw me a
you're
bone.
congratulating somebody for not being a fascist.
Yeah,
Actually,
I
in
know.
these times, it
It,
is
it is. It
noteworthy
is quite
not
big.
being a
Yeah.
fascist.
No, I feel like because basically we won't be going on holiday anytime soon for various different reasons, including that we're spending money on different things. I feel like I can really get on my high moral ground now and just say cancel all the holidays. Nobody. How dare you go to France this year and bring back some strange variant? Haven't we all suffered enough? I'm going to really crank that up to the friends and family, especially the boomers. No, you're not going to your second home in France, Mr. Boomer lady. How very selfish of you. This is this kind of stuff that we could deploy, right? Because it suits
I
us, right?
wanted
It suits
to.
me.
Do you
Whereas
know
yours,
who our friend is? Our unlikely friend.
God,
Which world leader right now is proving the most on our side?
don't know. Someone from Hungary.
Uncle Vlad.
Oh, God.
Putin. Do you see? No, no. I mean, everyone.
This
He's
is
a
why
bit.
you get abuse on Twitter.
Putin, no, well, yeah, yeah, I don't care. I mean, I
I know. I'm
absolutely
joking.
don't. I've done a brilliant podcast, I mean, though I say it myself, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
With, do you ever listen to Irreverend Pod?
No. No.
It's
I
an
have limited.
absolute treat. I mean, following up the Jonathan Marsley one would have been
Yeah.
awful, but this guy rose to the occasion. He's a curate, a Church of
Okay.
England curate, but he's on our side. And
Right.
the two other vicars on his pod. So they're obviously Christians, but they're proper Christians. They actually believe in God, which is
Yeah.
unlike most of the C of E, because
Sure. Sure.
they're high Anglican, high church
Yes.
Anglicans, and so they believe in God, and they probably say Our Father which art in heaven, which is always a good thing,
Okay.
rather than who art,
Right.
and or who is. That would be even worse, wouldn't it? And they are incredibly skeptical about the lockdown, on the vaccines, and so on. Why am I telling you this? I think we're in a massive spiritual struggle right now,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I wanted to tell you this.
Mm.
This you don't like it because it's really depressing, but you're going to have to do it because he's one of your lot. He's bang on the money.
Mm.
Reread the letter that Archbishop Vigano wrote
Yes.
to President Trump last year.
Yeah. No, I
It
saw you
is
tweeted.
it is
Yeah.
extraordinary
Mm.
how prophetic it is. It's absolutely terrifying. It's reading the Book of Revelation the day after it's all come true.
Mm.
It's like that. It's powerful. And what I found particularly interesting. So I read this letter and I thought, I wonder if he's done the interviews, and has
Yes.
done an interview. He's mainly an Italian speaker, so he's not going to have with Delingpole or anything. And anyway, I wouldn't get him. But I read a transcript of the interview, and it's really interesting. He talks about the deep church. Do you know what the deep church is? Have a
I
guess.
know about the deep church. Yes,
Oh, do
I know.
you?
Yeah,
You
yeah, of course.
do?
I in my other
Because
time, yeah, yeah. No, there's a big split. I mean, well, I mean, I assume I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, a lot
it's
of,
more than a split.
yes,
The guy who is currently your pope, the
yeah,
leader of your church, is
yes.
basically the Antichrist. I mean,
Well, yeah,
Bergoglio, but Pope
mm,
Francis is the deep church.
yeah.
I
No,
mean, it puts into a new
yes.
perspective how Pope Benedict, maybe there was something much shadier than we ever realized
No, no,
when Pope
he was
Benedict
pushed
retired.
out. No, I'm aware of. I know. Yeah, I know the whole thing. I just, I can't get sucked into that as well. No, I completely. Yeah,
Well,
that
it's
basically
all
he.
part and parcel of the same thing, though, Laura.
Yeah, he was
The
pushed
deep
out.
church is very much on with the
Yes.
Great Reset,
Yeah. No, I
and
agree.
the
Well,
and the and the smearing of Cardinal Pell, who is a brilliant man, a heroic man, and
well, yes.
the Catholic Church destroyed him. The establishment,
Yeah, I mean, there's
the
definitely some very bad
establishment.
hombres in the Vatican. There's no doubt about that. Now you are breaking up a little bit on me for the last couple of minutes, but I think you're back. No, Cardinal Sarah is
That's
another
annoying.
good one. Who he was unsurprisingly also pushed out. I think he was forced to resign or something because he was tipped to be the next pope. He also wrote against lockdowns. I think again, pretty much last year, again laying out how unbelievably anti-Christian it is, how it's crushing freedom. Yeah, I mean, it's just that they want to turn the plebs into slaves. It's not anything new. It's been tried before in a way. It'll be tried again. It's disappointing that a lot of people are obviously going along with it, but I think eventually the penny will drop. I will reread that speech, and as I said, Cardinal Sarah's is another good one. There are lots of
The
opposition out there. It's just as you always say, the mainstream media never cover it, right? Then instead you get Justin Welby has said that you should wear your mask, as opposed to the 15 other incredibly educated theologians who say no, this is a really bad idea. This is completely anti-Christian. It goes against
so
science. Yeah.
there's 10%, I would say,
Mm.
10% of us who are super well informed have realized that only we can save ourselves because government ain't going to do it. I mean,
No, but they're trying.
you look at the opposition. The Labour opposition are at least as bad
Yes.
as the Conservatives because they're led by a member of the Trilateral Commission, Keir
Yeah.
Starmer, who's totally on board with the Great Reset. So, and then you've got these controlled opposition
Mm.
the Brexit Party. Richard Tice, who he makes the right noises here and there,
Yeah, but
there
ultimately
he
he
was
wants
sort
to
of
be a Tory
shilling for
MP.
the vaccine the
And
other.
and
Yeah,
ultimately he wants to be a Tory
exactly.
MP. So how much use is he going to
So
be?
there's really not much hope out there except the people on the underground in the underground. The
Mm.
people. I mean, it's weird to think that I'm about the most prominent
Yes,
journalist speaking up for these people. It's
because
really
people
bizarre.
perceive
Why
you
me?
because people still perceive you as that you were part of the establishment. I think for me, before, doing all these, when I didn't really know you that well, I would have thought, oh yeah, James, he's pretty establishment. He writes for the Spectator. He's totally in there, right? Whereas I was never in there. Was always an outlier. So I think that's
it's
why.
a bit like,
yeah, you're seen as the kind of the most establishment out there person.
It's a bit like when David Icke, who used to be a footballer and wasn't he a daytime TV presenter, when he suddenly started wearing turquoise and talking about his David Icke stuff, although of course David Icke is right, and it's a bit like that. But I'm even though it's kind of hard to take a position where people are ridiculing you and you get tinfoil hat memes and you don't get a job on GB News because you're not controlled opposition. At the same time, I'm thinking, well, isn't the job of journalists to tell the truth?
I think it's the job of decent people, right, to tell the truth.
Yeah, decent people.
Yeah, but what this is, I think, in terms of, again, looking at as Toby said, people who up until now you sort of would have trusted to stand up for basic principles like freedom. So C.S. Lewis, I'm gonna have to. It's been a while since I've brought him up because I've listened to a whole.
Oh, good. No, I'm glad you brought him back. Yeah, because tell me.
I've listened to a whole lecture on a whole lecture series, and I've read a lot of his stuff, not most, because he's really prolific. But he has one small essay, and then it was mentioned in the lecture called The Ring. So I'll have to reread it, and he really focuses on this idea of people who really want to be right in that inner circle. Okay, and obviously there's a number of inner circles. So in government, you'd have the Gove, Hancock, Boris, who else? Priti Patel circle, and then you'll have another circle like that, and then you'll have and then there's Valence, and there's all the medical dudes who want to be in that circle, right? Ferguson and Valence,
and in the middle.
Yeah,
it's a pentacle with a sacrificed goat on it, or maybe a sacrificed child, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And then you have all the Tory sort of, as I said, press whose only aim is to protect Boris Johnson, and that really is that desire to be on this inner circle, and it could be bureaucrats, is really damaging, and is sort of the cause of so much evil in the world, right? Because you end up making completely evil decisions simply because it's not even I followed orders. It's not even you have to do this or I'm going to shoot you. It's like I'm going to do this because I really, really want to stay really good friends with Michael Gove, and I want to be in the circle. I want to be around the table. As I said, I'm going to reread, but I suspect that is what a lot of this is. And there's a protection racket around the circle and the protection racket around the circle.
Given that you know so much about C.S. Lewis, could you do us a kind of a piece for Conservative Woman with links? I know it'd be boring, but I wish you would, because it's really helpful. Because I think a lot of us are looking for stuff that explains everything, or gives us sort of guidance. Yes. On how to, like, there's an Italian philosopher which I've never read him, called Ride. Do you know about Ride the Tiger?
No.
I mean, you see, I'm talking about something I haven't read yet, but what I've been told is that he takes the view, I think he wrote it in the 60s, that culture is our culture is basically doomed. It's been overwhelmed. So our job is to ride the tide. It's about survival. It's about finding a way of getting through to the other side. But I could be completely misrepresenting him. The point I'm making is that there are, I'm sure, lots of key texts out there that we can. No,
I'll tweet them out. But there is. I mean, there's loads of. I mean, listen to this for a difference. So he. See, during the Second World War, C.S. Lewis gave a series of lectures, that's called Mere Christianity on the BBC. I think he'd
Yeah.
either, I don't know if it was lectures first and then he wrote up the lectures or the other way around. I think it was lectures first. And like everybody listened to it. You would be in the pub with, you know, the ordinary working class people. And if C.S. Lewis came out to give these lectures, Mere Christianity, people, everything stopped to listen to this guy. And you're like, yeah, and now we watch, I don't know, what do people watch? Like Big Brother
Just
or
Bridgerton.
Strictly Come Dancing or something.
No, but
and this
you know
is
what?
part of the problem.
Or Bridgerton.
Well, I like
Yeah, but you see, of course, we all have our little bits of soma that we like.
Exactly.
But actually, what you are doing is you are. I mean, it's the cabal that creates this crap. You know, you think about what's going on here. What is Bridgerton is telling you that. Don't worry. There was no decorum in 1805. They were just as bad as they were, at least as venal as we are. They had no. What?
I'm not too sure it says that.
I think it does. I think it does.
No,
you know,
it's all.
Everyone shags around. Everyone shags around, and like, you know, they let their hair down.
No, they don't. In fact, I've meant to write quite a blog on saying that actually Bridgerton is quite conservative, and you're all kidding yourselves. But I haven't read it yet. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't. There's no. I mean, all the main heroine, you know, is pure as the driven snow, gets married, and then her husband, who initially didn't want children, is then won around to having children. And yeah, it is. You could definitely write that it's quite a conservative. You can have a diverse cast.
That's interesting.
It's quite a conservative theme, I think. But yeah,
that's interesting because have you ever heard of Alan Watt?
No. I mean, the boys sleep around, but I think that probably was true then, right? So there's no rules on the boys, but not the ladies. No, that doesn't happen.
Alan Watt, who's well worth discovering. I only discovered him a week after he died, unfortunately. And apparently, somebody said he mentions you on his podcast occasionally, and you should get him on your pod. And I thought, yeah, who is he? So I listened to one of his podcasts, his general guide to what's going on, and this has been going on for decades. And one of the themes he riffs on is that TV. Somebody told me that they knew somebody who was in the CIA, deep level stuff, and the CIA person would never say anything about what he did, but all he said was, "Don't watch television. Never watch television."
Yes.
And actually, it is a brainwashing device. And what Alan Watt said was, if you watch films and TV programs, dramas and things, and you are able to cut yourself off from the enticing narrative if you stop being distracted by the things that are meant to distract you, and you look at what themes are being pushed and how it's being pushed,
I agree.
You realize that it all tends towards the dissolution of marriage, or it encourages casual sex, it encourages the whole business about inuring us to violence, using
I never watch violent stuff, as you know. I completely agree. Overall, most television is there to degrade the culture. I can absolutely agree with that. Some of the stuff that you can watch now will be considered like proper pornography, right, 40 years ago. But now and again, because I think the true desire for humans is to have quite a conservative life, it gets in there despite themselves, because they know that sells. But like, I don't watch Killing Eve and all that. And it actually annoys me when you get the whole, violence against women is so bad. Yet the next opinion writer next week will say, God, that Killing Eve or whatever it is, whatever woman ends up sliced and diced in the middle of a field, God, what great drama. I'm like, no.
Killing Eve.
I bet you watch Game of Thrones. I do not watch Game of Thrones. It's one of the few things, although I wouldn't ban him from watching it because he's man of the house. I have said to the husband, I was like, I really do not want you to watch Game of Thrones. This is very bad for your soul. You shouldn't be watching it. I don't care how they sell it. It's degrading. You can't.
I've never watched.
A lot of people do.
I've never even heard of it. What's it about?
Oh God!
It's about a game.
Ages. It's a fantasy thing, and there's a dragon, and blah blah blah. No, I mean, I spend a lot of my time trying to find stuff that
the dragon that goes burr burr burr.
Oh, it's so bad. It's like there's
No,
incest and they kill women and they kill pregnant women and they stab pregnant women and there's rape and there's
okay,
all this
but
garbage. And
it
you're like,
doesn't sound.
it's so bad.
It. I saw one half. I think half an episode of Killing Eve,
Yeah.
and I just thought this is
Yeah.
toxic. It's
Yes.
toxic on the same level as. Do you remember
Mm.
that drama series about? I mean, I think this was almost one of the nadirs of BBC. The
Yes.
series about the serial killer, and there's a policewoman the policewoman is played by the girl from the X-Files, isn't it? Gillian Anderson,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
and
Oh, I
and
again, I saw it,
and
didn't watch.
it's and it's like he goes around murdering women, but he's kind of sexy at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
thinking that is awful. You're sort of
Yeah.
it's clearly aimed at a female audience because
Yeah.
I don't think any man would watch this
Mm,
absolute tribe. And
mm.
it plays on this dichotomy within women, the sort of
Yes.
the rape murder fantasy,
Yeah.
and at the same time
Yeah.
the hunky guy. It's
I get it.
awful. It's
No,
sick.
I know.
It's
I
absolutely
don't
a
watch
sign of
any.
a decadent culture.
Well, I watched Cruel and I rewatch. So sometimes I rewatch films that I watched when I was like a teenager or whatever, back 100 years ago, and that I know I liked. And I rewatched Cruel Intentions. Have you ever seen this?
No.
Your Sarah Michelle Gellar is in it. Ryan Philippe is in it. Oh, and the girl I like, a nice blonde girl who did Sweet Home Alabama. Oh, you know her. I do like her. Anyway, I forget her name. Anyway, I
For
rewatched
young ones, look
it
the same to me.
in the cold light of day, and I just thought, this is properly demonic. I'm like, okay, the evil Sarah Michelle Gellar character sort of gets her comeuppance in the end, but if you were really reviewing it, you would say it was so small at the end that it wouldn't have put an audience off, right, from being basically completely evil. They sort of run. It's a reworking. It's a reworking of Cruel Intentions, where anyway, older actors were in it. In it was set in France, and basically it's about this guy who tries to seduce this complete cad, rake, whatever you want to call him, who tries to seduce this virginal girl. He eventually does, but he actually also falls in love with her. But he's then being manipulated by the main demonic Sarah Michelle Gellar character, and it's not very subtle. Sarah Michelle Gellar is always in black, and the virginal character is always in white. And yeah, again, you're looking at it and you're just like, and he also he also seduces and essentially ruins this other completely innocent girl. And I'm just looking at it going, this, as I said, is actually demonic. If you were an adult, you could get how, that they painted quite an evil character quite appropriately. But a child, to show it to a teenager or someone in their 20s, God knows how I survived it.
What's
I
it
think
called?
would be Cruel Intentions. Oh, it's on Prime for free.
Is it a movie or a
Yeah,
series?
a movie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a movie, and I mean, the thing is, the clothes are quite nice in it, and I can be quite shallow like that. So that's why, and
There's,
it's just I can't. Yeah, Cruel Intentions. Right. Oh, Reese Witherspoon is in it. Selma Blair is in it.
yes, we
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we
yeah.
like Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, I quite like her. And so she's the virginal character. And basically, the plot of the film is Ryan Philippe, being manipulated by Sarah Michelle Gellar, has to be completely taken down. In fairness, it is an adaptation unsurprisingly, a French novel, Le Liaison Dangereuse. Written
Liaison Dangereuse. Okay,
Yeah,
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 well,
yeah.
fine. That's I mean
So
that's
the
a
other
classic.
film has
La
Glenn
Clos.
Close in it, I think, and someone else. So yeah, I just rewatched that, and I thought to myself, wow, this is properly demonic. This is really bad.
Yes.
But as I said, and even though the evil character sort of, as I said, gets her comeuppance in the end, you're like, no, that's not enough. It's not enough to take to undo all the evil
There's
that you've shown.
there's lots when I watched a really well-made film the other
Yeah.
day, by one of my favorite German directors, Tom Tykwer, I think it's
Okay.
pronounced. He directed Babylon Berlin, and he did Run Lola Run, but he directed the movie version of Patrick Süskind's Perfume. You remember that big hit in the
I
1980s?
read the book, I
Uh,
think. Yeah.
And well, you may remember it's nihilistic.
Okay.
It's an appalling. It was a
Yeah.
huge bestseller, a huge Euro bestseller in the vein of The Name of the Rose and stuff. But
Sure.
actually, when you look about, I mean, I don't want to spoil the ending, but I fear I may have
Mm.
to. You know, this guy goes around murdering women for their
Mm.
scent,
Yes.
and and
Yeah.
at the end he gets away with it because he creates a scent so orgiastically wonderful using the scent of these dead
Yeah.
females that everyone is entranced and he
Yes.
sort of disappears. I mean, what a satanic plot line that is. I
No, I
mean, okay,
know.
so it's art,
Yes.
but it's just debased.
I know, and
The
it's
morality is
constantly
just
there, chipping away, right? It just chips away at what you perceive. It essentially chips away at virtue, okay? And it no doubt will probably
yes.
flip. It will flip all the virtues and say essentially the seven deadly sins are kind of what you need. No, I agree. I could go through so many films again when you rewatch them. I mean, some are okay. Some have stood up the test of time, but a lot of them when I've rewatched, I'm like, God, I can't believe I watched this. Um, oh no, I'll tell you, this
There
is it.
must
So
have been a point
yeah,
where art suddenly became
it,
degenerate.
no,
But before, I mean,
a
because
lot of it is.
Middlemarch isn't degenerate, I don't think.
No, no. Well,
I
then any
don't
of
think
them
that.
based on the old books won't be. They will be saved. But even oh yeah, that was it. So I saw someone, and even two other films. If we because I like talking about films that have been trashed by both the left and the right. But again, remember who pushed it on you? American Beauty, right? Do you remember that movie?
Yes,
Now
I
there are.
do.
Do you like it? Okay. Well, there
Well,
are
no, well,
funny.
I remember enjoying it at the time,
I
enlighten me.
enjoyed it at the time as well. Don't get me wrong, and there are definitely funny bits in it. But you're just first of all, it's another film, and there was a genre of films, American films that trash suburbia. There's another one I'll tell you about, but. So supposedly it's this middle class couple, right? Kevin Spacey and Annette Bening, I think, and they've made it, and they're living in a nice house in the burbs, and they've got one child, but they're miserable on the inside, right? And he's a classic boomer. He harkens back to his boomer days when Annette Bening used to just, get topless whenever they wanted. You're like, yeah, okay, that was like 100 years ago. You're not that. And he pervs over his daughter's friend, right? And this is pushed as like, yes, as no big deal here
That's
that this whatever guy older than you is perving over his daughter's friend. And I think eventually, no, he nearly sleeps with her, but he doesn't sleep with her. And you're just looking at it, and look, don't get me wrong, there are enjoyable bits, which is no doubt why they put that in there. And you're just looking at them going, oh my God. He basically said, I don't want any more responsibility, right? I want to jack in my job, classic boomer, go back to my job that I had in the 60s or 70s. I don't like my wife anymore because she's a bit boring and uptight. I think I'm going to perv over my teenage daughter's friend, and I'm going to smoke loads of pot. Classic
interesting.
boomer movie. And so
That's
let's do Love Actually. If you go through all the couples at Love Actually, right, including the Keira Knightley triple thing, where her husband's friend turns up at her door and declares his love for her. You're like, who the fuck does that? Who does that? Right. And also, if you actually go through the relationships, there's no backstory. They all love each other for some reason that we can't understand. They don't know each other. There's no slow. That movie is also
well,
terrible.
but you know why?
Hugh
Richard
Grant
Curtis
is in it.
is massively behind the Great Reset. Richard
Yeah, I
Curtis
mean
is
they're all
absolutely in
terrible.
balls deep to the Great Reset.
Mm,
He's just, and he makes films like, I mean, he's made many terrible films. I think the
yes.
worst, I'm a connoisseur of his awfulness,
Oh,
is
go
one
on.
called Girl in the Cafe, and it's
Mm,
just pure
yeah.
propaganda for whatever ghastly globalist cause he's uh,
Yeah.
proselytizing about at the time. It's extraordinary. Yeah, no, I think it would be good to write a book actually deconstructing all these.
I mean, they've been written, I think, but yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, but they wouldn't be as good as the one I'd write or you'd
no,
write.
true, or we would write. No, that's
Um,
true. I mean, yeah, yeah.
but it's interesting what you say about you see that Sam Mendes film. So what's tell me
Oh,
the name again?
Sam Mendes is
No, no,
terrible.
no. But what was the film you just described with Kevin
Um,
Spacey? American
American
Beauty.
Beauty, and he
American
did
Beauty.
some. Go on, yeah. I'm going to get the other
So
film that he did that I don't like. Go
um,
on,
okay,
go on. I'm
it's
listening though.
interesting. You know that I am now at the age where my daughter has friends that theoretically I could perv over, but
Yes,
I think like most dads in my position, you don't. There's a kind of valve in your head that
yes.
stops you. It's the same thing that stops you feeling
Decency,
sexual feelings towards your children. It's
exactly.
inbuilt. There's
Yeah,
it's more than cultural. It's I think it's an in. Okay, maybe it is cultural
I
partly,
think a
but
lot of it is
I,
cultural,
I've
and that's why these films
I've
want to take
never
it apart. Yeah,
that interesting.
exactly. A
I've
lot of
never
it is
felt
cultural.
any kind of sexual feelings towards
Yeah.
any of my
No, I know.
daughter's
And
friends.
honestly,
It
it's
just seemed a bit
completely different
weird.
saying that person is attractive. I mean, 20-year-old women are incredibly attractive. I've
Yes,
no
you
doubt
you
that
can you can you can
that
you can
when,
look at them and say that's
yeah,
good wife material for my son or whatever. You might do that, but you
yeah.
certainly don't
Ex-
lech
ex-
after them.
yeah, exactly. And like,
And I'm
I
sure I'm
would,
not. I'm sure I'm not exceptional here. I'm sure that 99% of dads feel the same way
well,
as I do. So you're right. That film is toxic because it is subverting
it's
a
completely.
sensible taboo.
Yeah, and they do it all the time. And it also completely trashes suburbia, which is another thing, or even just sort of coherent marriages. And Revolutionary Road, of course, is another one that trashes suburbia. It's or again just intact marriages. That has Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, again, in a way, it's a good film to watch because they're good actors. I don't know if you remember this, but she's sort of the frustrated housewife, and it's all a little bit miserable underneath. And um, yeah, they do this a lot. There's a lot of, as I said, boomer. Some films should come with a boomer warning. Should literally be like warning, written and acted by boomers. Reject all of the messages in this film. But yeah, there are a couple of holdouts, but you have to go back about 20 years really to watch any decent films. But yeah, perving over your teenage daughters or 20-year-old daughter's friends is not the
Yeah.
way to go. As I said, looking at someone and going, that person is very attractive, and I think you can do that with men or women, is completely different to what he does. But a lot of that relies on taboos, because if you read your Daily Mail, there's plenty of like so and so took off with her stepson, or so and so took off with their stepdaughter, and loads of completely, as I said, degenerate kind of behavior. And it's a slippery slope as well. It doesn't take much to get down that slope, I think. Uh, Humans are weak. So that's why you have to have very strong societal taboos against it. But
Yeah.
anyway, what can you
Yeah.
do? So,
Well, this we've helped explain to people
yeah.
how we got here, because I think that this uh what was it that was it somebody in The Great Gatsby asked about how he became
Oh, sorry.
poor, how he lost his
Oh,
money
I
very
don't.
slowly and then very suddenly. Or so
Okay.
I've got the quotation wrong, but
Yeah.
that's how it's been. That although the collapse of our civilization seems to have happened with extraordinary rapidity in the last year,
Mm,
yet this is the culmination of decades of preparation. We've been softened up. I mean, check out the Alan
absolutely.
Watt podcast
No, I
and
will. I
check
will.
out the Cardinal Archbishop Vigano letter,
Yes.
which, I mean, it it's very black, because was reading it, you think, my goodness, how did this guy manage to be so accurate this
Mm,
at the end of last year? So many of his predictions come true. It's bleak, but at the same time, I think it's really important to know what's going on. You
yeah.
can't
No, I know you're
bury your
right.
head in the sand. Although,
Yeah.
unless you work for the mainstream media, of course, in which case it's your job. There it
Well,
is.
it's
Anyway, I think we've given
yeah,
our.
gone
It's
over.
coffee time for me. Do
Definitely.
you know what? Do you know the thing that's been keeping me happy?
Coffee? No?
Coffee and horses.
Yeah, I know.
Horse.
I know.
My horse has been making me so happy.
I know. I can
It
imagine you
absolutely has.
nearly
I'm
took
actually in
them.
love. I'm actually in love with my horse,
Well,
and
you'll
he's
see
a
that on your
boy.
telly next.
Do you
Yeah,
think I'm,
no,
do
I
you think
mean, look,
I'm gay?
no, I think they're very noble, very, very, very noble animals, right? I mean, it's, yeah, I can understand that. And you're out as well. I mean, I don't have a horse, but I do have a dog that I'll bring for a walk now. He's quite funny personality, so he'll do.
Yes, I think there is solace in animals. They kind of
Definitely.
keep a sort of sense of normality,
And they
even
are less
as.
evil than, Matt Hancock and the rest of them.
And
Yeah.
I don't think that that evil is not too strong a word for what's going
No,
on.
it's
It
not.
is
Absolutely
evil.
not.
It's absolutely, and I think the more people realize this,
Mm.
anyway, do check out Jonathan Marsley and
Okay.
do check out my forthcoming podcast
Oh,
with my vicar, Jamie
yes,
Franklin.
I will. I
It,
will.
it's good.
Sounds
Anyway,
good.
great to talk, Laura. I'm really glad you
Okay.
could do it. We've both started late. Lots of love.
Okay.
Bye
Take it
bye.
easy, James. Bye. Bye bye.
Bye.